The language used in many financial documents often confuse customers that they end up signing contracts that they don't understand. Financial advisors use terms such as assets or liabilities, and this is not simplified. And when clients are not sure what, for example, the term commodities mean, they fall into an abstraction after reading the first paragraph of their savings or investment contracts. So the financial world is filled with jargon that even some financial professionals admit they don't always understand. And it has been reported that 58% of South Africans don't know what you're talking about when it comes to their finances. And of course, online research specialist Columinate launched its financial jargon survey in South Africa, and the study aims at establishing consumer understanding of financial jargon commonly used in the financial industry. Well, to talk about this, we are joined in the studio by Henk Pretorious, who is the CEO of Columinate. Welcome to our program.
Thank you. Well, that's good to be here.
Yes. Tell us about the gauge of South Africa's financial literacy. I mean, many people have gone to school, have matric, they've gone to colleges and universities and training technicals and all that.
Sure.
They say they are educated, but are they educated in terms of finance, personal finance management?
According to this survey, no. I wouldn't say so, unfortunately. In this survey, we tested two different aspects of knowledge. We asked initially, like you said, a lot of people think that they are educated. They have some common sense understanding of some of these terms. But once we actually asked them to match definitions to specific descriptions, that's where things really fell apart. So what we found was, you cited the figure of 58% who said that we found actually didn't know what these terms mean, but 75% initially claimed to actually know the terms we presented to them. So I think there's a big mismatch in what people think they know and what they actually know.
Let's talk about these terms that are confusing people. Can you give us an example of some of the words that are used and people who have money don't even know what they mean?
Yes. I think the obvious ones that we found were things like hedge fund, which is an investment term, things like equity, returns per share. These are things that people struggled with. But then we also found some banking terms. Even overdraft was something that a lot of people didn't correctly identify. Things in short-term insurance that people actually confused were homeowners insurance, home contents and buildings insurance. These were things that people got confused with. They often said contents insurance was either buildings insurance or one of the other ones. So medical aid, similarly, hospital plan, hospital insurance were examples that people got confused with.
Most of the contracts that are drafted are done through legal departments of different companies. And it's not like a simple financial manager who tabulates all the instructions with regard to the contract and the payouts and all that. And this creates an expectation that things will go well. But sometimes there are crossroads when somebody has to claim from a medical aid because of some of the fine print that was included in the contract and all that. So why is it that companies compile contracts that have a lot of jargon? Is it intended purposely to confuse the consumers?
It's very, very difficult to say that it's intended. I think oftentimes there is no way around using certain terminology. Things have to have names, and sometimes, unfortunately, they're unfamiliar names to consumers. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it is a purposeful ambiguity on the parts of financial services companies. I think the onus is both on financial service suppliers, but also on consumers to actually go through that education process and familiarize themselves. Ask the questions of your broker and your financial advisor. Ask of this financial services company, and actually make sure you know what these terms are.
Fine print seems to be a problem, except when one has to go through the T&Cs. They just ask you to initial a page which is full of fine print, small letters, and then you just have to write your initial there. Why is that?
I think a lot of times it's due to the effort on the part of the consumer. They don't want to have consumers fill in a lot of forms, which they already need to do when they do financial service applications. So I think that's sort of a tick they need to do at the end for regulatory and legal compliance. That's not something that's taken very seriously by financial services companies or consumers, which this survey has found particularly is quite concerning.
Well, we've just noted that the Financial Services Board has recognized an asymmetry in information available to consumers and financial institutions. And this situation places consumers at a disadvantage. And for this reason, an outcomes-based regulatory approach has been drafted, and it's called Treating Customers Fairly. And of course, we need you to tell us more about this Treating Consumers Fairly. What does it entail?
At the heart of it, Treating Customers Fairly says that there's the information available to financial services companies puts them at an advantage when they deal with consumers. So the basic underlying idea is that we need to inform consumers of what they're actually purchasing, that they can make an educated decision. What this survey has said that we should be educating consumers not only in general terms on financial products, but also on the terminology that goes along with these terms and services.
So is it going to change, as in like from now on, if I apply for an insurance company or buy a car somewhere or buy a house, in terms of the contract that I'll be having, will I be given enough time to read, understand, and decide whether I want to sign or not?
Yes, unfortunately, you already have that power to actually do that. Financial services companies are not supposed to impose a certain time period on your understanding of a product or service, but that's something that's now becoming more and more of a concern for the Financial Services Board, and certainly you will have more than enough time to ask your questions and become familiar with the documentation.
All right, so if people then need help with regard to this, because I believe it's very cumbersome for contracts with a lot of jargon, what must people do? How do they get to contact you?
I think the most important thing is to speak to their financial service providers to get accurate understanding. If you don't know what a certain thing means, ask. Do your own research. Go to some of the places that offer information. Go to the internet. These things are available, fortunately. Read the fine print. It's not exactly riveting reading, but it's a necessary evil to get to an understanding of what these things mean.
All right. Thank you very much for talking
Thank
to
you.
us. All right, we're talking there to Henk Pretorious, who is the CEO of the company that is an online research institution called Columinate.